Ava's Impossible Things is about a young woman taking care of her mum who's dealing with Huntington's disease. Things get really tough when her mum says she wants to end her life, leaving Ava heartbroken. To escape the pain, Ava dives into a musical daydream filled with hope and healing. It's a powerful journey about love, loss, and finding renewal in tough times. Let's dive into the story. Ava's world is small, wrapped up in the warmth of her mother's presence. But that warmth, it's fading fast. The film opens with Ava sleeping by her mother's side, and her mother watching her sleep. There's something heartbreaking about it. This moment where she hesitates to wake her, hoping the dreams are kinder than reality. And honestly, that's a big mood. Her mother, played with a quiet vulnerability, is slipping away. Not in the dramatic, one big goodbye kind of way, but in slow, painful fragments. 3 falls in 1 week. The kind of thing that makes you realize time doesn't ask for permission, it just takes. Every morning felt like walking a tightrope between the familiar and the unknown. Some days her mum was totally herself, remembering all the little things from their past. Other days, she couldn't even recognize where she was or who her daughters were. Ava had gotten used to the ups and downs, but that didn't make it any easier. The caretaker, Leslie, arrived as she did every morning, bringing a quiet efficiency that Ava had come to rely on. Despite everything, their mother still had moments of warmth. She would look at Ava and smile, commenting on how beautiful she was, how much she resembled the girl she used to be. There were moments when she seemed like herself again, holding Ava's face in her hands, speaking with the same gentle authority she always had. But those moments were fleeting, slipping away as quickly as they came. The weight of responsibility grew heavier each day. Ava had to make sure her mother took her medications, had to remind her to eat, had to convince her that Leslie was there to help, not to hurt her. There were times when her mother grew fearful, confused by the presence of strangers in her home, not realizing that Leslie had been caring for her for months. Some days Ava had to reassure her over and over again, gently guiding her back to a sense of safety. Other days, no amount of comforting words could reach her. The strain was beginning to show. Ava could feel it in her body, in the exhaustion that never seemed to fade. She barely slept, always listening for any signs of movement in the night, afraid that another fall would happen when she wasn't there to stop it. She had stopped making plans, stopped thinking beyond the immediate needs of each day. Her world had shrunk down to this house, this routine, this slow decline that she was powerless to stop. Seeing Jessa brought back memories of a life before all of this, before illness had consumed every part of her reality. They had once been close, but time and circumstances had pulled them apart. Now, Jessa was here, standing on the doorstep, looking at her with a mixture of sympathy and something else, something Ava couldn't quite place. Inside, her mother was talking as if nothing had changed, speaking to Anna with a lightness that almost seemed normal. But Ava knew it wouldn't last. She knew that at any moment the confusion could return, the fear, the questions. She felt the weight of it pressing down on her. She wasn't just losing her mother, she was losing herself too. Ava sat frozen, her mother's words ringing in her ears. The weight of what had just been said was too much to process. Her heart pounded in her chest, her vision blurred with unshed tears. Anna, on the other hand, was in shock. She hadn't expected this. None of them had. Their mother had always been strong, even when the illness took hold of her mind and body. But now she was looking at them with a quiet resignation, as if she had already made peace with what she was saying. Ava wanted to scream, to plead with her to take back her words. Instead, all she could do was sit there, staring at the woman who had raised her, loved her, sacrificed everything for her. "No," Ava whispered, shaking her head. "We're not doing this. We're not having this conversation." "Ava, look at me," her mother said softly. Ava refused. She focused on the floor, the patterned rug beneath her feet suddenly fascinating. If she didn't look up, maybe this moment wouldn't be real. Maybe it would fade away like so many of her mother's memories. But Anna wasn't as quiet. "Mum, you can't be serious," she said, her voice trembling. "You can't just decide this. There has to be another way." "There isn't," their mother said, with a calm certainty that sent chills down Ava's spine. "Sweetheart, I know this is hard to hear, but I've thought about this for a long time. I can't live like this anymore. I don't want to." Ava clenched her fists. "You don't mean that. You're just having a bad day. Tomorrow you'll feel different." Her mother gave her a sad smile. "Ava, darling, tomorrow is just another day where I wake up and forget who I am, who you are. Another day where I fall. Another day where I'm a burden." Ava's stomach twisted. How long had she been thinking about this? How long had she been planning? She glanced at Anna, who was still pacing, her face pale and drawn. "How could you keep this from me?" Anna demanded, turning to Ava suddenly. "How could you let her think this way? Did you know?" Ava hesitated. I thought she was just having one of her moments, that she'd forget about it the next day. I didn't think it was real." Anna's eyes filled with betrayal. "What else haven't you told me? What's been happening when I'm not here?" Ava swallowed, her throat dry. "She falls a lot," she admitted quietly. "She can't walk or go to the bathroom on her own anymore. She doesn't eat. She stopped reading months ago. She cries when I leave her alone. She gets confused, scared, and sometimes—" She hesitated. "Sometimes she gets violent, but she doesn't mean it." Anna's expression hardened. "I haven't seen any of this." "She doesn't want you to," Ava whispered. "She's been hiding it from you." "I don't want this to drag on," she said gently. "I don't want to keep hurting you both, and I don't want to keep hurting myself." Ava shook her head again, refusing to accept this. "Number. It's not fair. You don't get to make this decision alone." Their mother reached for her hand, squeezing it lightly. "I love you, Ava. I love you, Anna. More than anything. But my body is failing me. My mind is going. I don't want to be here when I can't even recognize my own daughters." Ava squeezed her eyes shut, her breathing uneven. "There has to be something we can do. A new treatment. A better doctor. Something." Their mother just shook her head. Tears slid down Anna's face. "I don't know how to do this, Mom." "You don't have to," their mother whispered. "Just be with me. That's all I need." Ava felt something inside her crack. The weight of the last year, the exhaustion, the fear, the grief. It all came crashing down on her at once. She let out a small sob and, without thinking, leaned into her mother's arms. Her mother wrapped her in an embrace, just like she used to when they were kids. The warmth of it, the familiarity, made Ava break down completely. Someone wakes her up. She was in a place of something like a show. She felt weightless, untethered from reality, yet burdened by something intangible. Regret, confusion, longing. She didn't know how long she'd been in this world, only that each moment stretched and twisted, bending time into an incomprehensible shape. She stood in the midst of it all, watching Claire, actually her mother, but everyone is calling her as Claire. She prepared to leave, her figure outlined by an unnatural glow. Everything in this place felt heightened, more vivid than real life, and yet nothing here was tangible. Claire wasn't just a friend in this dream world. She was a symbol, a construct of something Ava couldn't quite define. Freya, who was really Anna, hung back, her feelings thick in the air. There was this big gap between them, something Ava had created, whether she meant to or not. Freya's anger wasn't new, but in this place that Ava had pulled from her mind, it felt even stronger. It was like carrying the weight of 20 years of depression, unhealed wounds, and something deeper than just bitterness, and it sat heavily on both of them. The others were moving around her like shadows from her imagination, acting out their parts like they were following some sort of unwritten script. She watched them laugh, hug each other, and share secrets she didn't even remember telling them. Yet even so, they felt more vibrant and alive here than she did in her own skin. Ava wanted to wake up. She needed to wake up. Her mother was waiting. But the dream held her in its grip, refusing to release her until she did what she came to do. The problem was, she didn't know what that was. Ava had spent so long trying to be the good one again, to erase the past, to make amends for things she barely understood. But here, in this space where dreams and reality intertwined, she had to confront it, all of it. She turned to Freya, her heart pounding. There were no words, not yet, but the weight of their shared past, of their unfinished business, pressed against them both like a suffocating force. Then comes Emma, which is actually Jessa, and they both go to a room where she spends a good time with each other and have an intimate moment. Ava's dream world kept twisting, and while both of them were enjoying their moments, a surprise character she'd invented, Sweet Pea. Sweet Pea showed up like an unexpected friend in a strange dream, telling her in a light, almost playful way that time never stopped ticking. Even in a dream, there was no escape from the clock's constant reminder that every moment mattered. Sweet Pea's presence felt like a nudge from deep inside, saying, "Hey, Ava, it's time to get back on track." In this surreal space, things quickly turned serious when Ava found herself facing a version of her sister Anna. But in the dream, Anna appeared under a different name, Phrase, and she seemed to carry all the old tensions and unspoken feelings that had built up between them. This wasn't a simple chat. It was more like a long overdue heart-to-heart that had been hidden for years. The dream made it clear that deep inside, Anna had been holding on to feelings of jealousy and hurt, feelings that she never found a safe way to express. The dream showed Ava and her sister in a strange confrontation where everything was mixed up. On one side, there was the person who had always been seen as strong, someone who easily attracted love and admiration. On the other side was someone who felt weighed down by the need to keep up, who carried years of worry and envy. The dream turned these deep emotions into vivid images and feelings, forcing both of them to face the truth about their complicated relationship. As the dream went on, the scene changed again, and suddenly it felt like they were at a farewell party for Claire, which is actually her mom, in her dream. The party wasn't a loud, wild celebration. It was more like a quiet, bittersweet gathering where everyone knew something important was coming to an end. Claire's departure wasn't just about her leaving. It represented the idea that nothing stays the same forever. Even as everyone prepared for a toast, the mood was filled with both hope and sadness. It was as if the party was a way to say goodbye to old ways of thinking and welcome the possibility of something new. The atmosphere at the dream party was filled with mixed emotions. People around seemed to be caught between wishing for the past and accepting the future. The imagined toast, meant to honor Claire and her new journey, turned into a symbol for letting go of what once was. The words of the toast echoed softly through the dream, urging everyone to surrender to what is, let go of what was, and have faith in what will be. Even though the words weren't spoken aloud in the way they might be in real life, the feeling was clear. This was a moment of acceptance and bittersweet farewell. Throughout the dream, the different parts, Sweet Pea's reminder about time, the tense meeting with her sister's dream self, and the emotional party, merged together in a whirlwind of feelings. Ava could feel the weight of old secrets and unresolved hurt, but there was also a sense of hope. The dream pushed her to look at everything honestly. The parts of herself she had hidden away, the resentments that had built up over the years, and the realization that change was not only inevitable, but necessary. At one point, as the party continued in the background, Ava felt like the dream was asking her to make a choice. There was a part of her that wanted to run away from all the pain, but another part knew that she couldn't ignore it any longer. The dream became a mix of flashes from the past and glimpses of a possible future where everything might finally be resolved. Even though the images were jumbled and the scenes shifted quickly, the overall message was clear. To move on, she needed to let go of the hurt and accept that change was coming. Amid all these swirling images, the feeling of being lost in a maze of thoughts was almost overwhelming. But the dream also reminded Ava that she had the power to wake herself up, literally and figuratively. Sweet Pea's earlier interruption, with its reminder that the clock never stopped, was like a beacon telling her that no matter how deep the dream was, there was always a way out. The dream world was meant to help her sort out her emotions and find some clarity, even if it all felt confusing and mixed up. Slowly, the different pieces of the dream began to settle. The emotional confrontation with her sister, the farewell toast for Claire, and the gentle reminders that time was passing all came together in a way that made Ava realize she had been given a chance to face everything head-on. The dream wasn't just a random jumble of thoughts. It was like a mirror reflecting the parts of her life that she had been too scared or too busy to look at closely. Just as the dream reached its peak, a sudden pull brought Ava back to reality. With a start, she awoke in her mother's arms. The vivid images of the dream began to fade, replaced by the soft, familiar warmth of her mother's touch. In that quiet morning light, the intensity of the dream gave way to a deep, lingering peace. Back in the real world, everything had changed in its own way. Their mother, who had battled her illness for so long, had finally found her own kind of peace. It was a gentle, almost silent passing, a farewell that felt as natural as the turning of the seasons. With their mother gone, Ava and Anna found themselves facing the aftermath of years of unspoken words and hidden resentments. The raw emotions from the dream lingered, guiding them toward a path of healing. They began to talk more, slowly and carefully, about everything that had been left unsaid. The dream had forced both of them to confront the pain and jealousy that had built up over time, and now, in the quiet of the morning, they realized that it was time to mend the broken parts of their relationship. The days that followed were not filled with dramatic resolutions or grand gestures. Instead, Ava and Anna took small steps toward understanding and forgiveness. They shared memories of their childhood, of happy times with their mother, and even the moments that had hurt them. The process wasn't easy, and there were days when the old wounds would reopen, but each conversation helped to build a new bridge between them. Ava slowly came to understand that her dream was not just a random adventure in her sleep. It had been a way for her mind to process all the emotions and challenges that had built up over the years. The gentle encouragement from Sweet Pea, the raw, honest confrontation with her sister's dream self, and the farewell party for Claire had all been signs that it was time to move on. It was time to face the real world, to accept the loss of their mother, and to rebuild the bond between her and Anna. As the morning light grew stronger, Ava felt a quiet strength rising inside her, a determination to face the day with a clearer heart and a more honest outlook. The pain of loss was still there, but it was now mixed with hope and the promise that she would never be alone. With the memory of her mother as a gentle guide and her sister by her side, Ava stepped into a new day, ready to leave behind the weight of old regrets and embrace a future filled with healing and understanding. In that new day, The dream and its messages stayed with her as a reminder that no matter how tangled life became, there was always a way to find clarity. Ava learned that letting go of the past didn't mean forgetting the love they had shared. It meant honoring it by moving forward with courage. And as she moved ahead, she knew that even in the darkest moments, the light of love would always shine through, guiding her and Anna toward a brighter tomorrow. In the final moments of this long emotional journey, everything began to settle into a bittersweet calm. After all the dreams, confrontations, and heart-wrenching farewells, Ava and her sister Anna found themselves surrounded by the warmth of memories and the gentle guidance of those who had supported them. Leslie, who had been there through every twist and turn, stood by them like a steady lighthouse in a stormy sea. Her quiet words of gratitude and heartfelt thanks carried the weight of their shared sorrow and joy. For both Ava and Anna, spending time with their mother had been one of life's greatest gifts, a precious period filled with love, laughter, and even moments of surprise that they had never expected. Leslie had helped them in so many ways, easing the heavy burden of caring for their mother and making sure that every moment was cherished. Her caring presence reminded them that, even in the darkest hours, there were still people who could bring light into their lives. They felt incredibly thankful for all that she had done, and even though the conversation that followed was gentle and filled with shared smiles, it was also laced with the kind of sorrow that only loss can bring. As they reminisced, it was clear that their mother had been a force of nature, a woman with a wild, spirited side that few had ever known. There was also talk of future plans, of dreams that once seemed so possible. Jessa brought up an idea to take a trip to Colorado, a plan that had been talked about years ago, but now carried an added twist of hope. It was a reminder that life, with all its ups and downs, continued to move forward. Even as they struggled with the painful reality of loss, they knew that every person had their own time stamp, a moment when everything changes. They joked that since none of them really knew when that moment would come for each of them, they might as well live fully, just like everyone else does. Later on, the sisters sat together in a cozy corner of their home, surrounded by old photographs, keepsakes, and trinkets that their mother had lovingly collected over the years. The room was filled with a nostalgic glow as they flipped through faded albums and held delicate mementos in their hands. Each picture was like a window into a past that was both joyous and tinged with the sadness of what had been lost. They saw images of themselves as little cherubs, smiling brightly, their faces capturing the innocence of youth and the promise of a future filled with wonder. There was a sense of humor in the way they recalled how they always got their dents scraped from running around without a care, a small detail that now made them smile at the absurdity of life. In between the pages of old photo albums, the sisters discovered one of their favorite mementos, a handwritten note from their mother. It was a simple message filled with love and a touch of playful reproach, reminding them that even in moments of anger or frustration, her love was always there. Alongside the note was the necklace their mother had treasured so dearly. Holding the necklace close, Anna and Ava felt as if she was still there with them, her spirit woven into every delicate link of the chain. It was a tangible reminder that even though she was gone, her love and the memories they had shared would never fade. In those quiet moments, as they sat side by side and looked at the treasures of the past, Ava and Anna realized that the end of one chapter did not mean the end of everything. Their mother's life, full of surprises and a spirit that could light up any room, had given them the strength to face their own future. They learned that letting go did not mean forgetting. It meant accepting that the love they shared would continue to guide them even when the person who had given it all was no longer physically present. Ava's Impossible Things is a deeply personal story about love, loss, and the difficult choices that come with caring for a loved one in decline. The film follows Ava, a young woman in her late 20s, whose life has become defined by the demands of caring for her mother, who is suffering from Huntington's disease. As the disease advances rapidly, Ava's mother loses the ability to perform even simple tasks and begins to forget those closest to her, including Ava's sister, Anna. The situation takes an even harsher turn when Ava discovers that she, too, has tested positive for Huntington's. This realization adds a heavy personal weight to her already overwhelming responsibility as she faces the fear of inheriting the same debilitating future that looms over her mother. In the midst of this struggle, the fragile family dynamic is further strained by the painful reality of memory loss. Her mother, once a central figure of love and strength, now seems to erase parts of her past, leaving Ava and Anna feeling more isolated than ever. The emotional climax comes when Ava's mother, overwhelmed by her suffering and the loss of her own identity, makes a heartbreaking declaration. She wants to end her life. This request shatters Ava, forcing her to confront not only the harsh truths about the disease, but also the moral and emotional dilemmas that come with such a decision. Unable to bear the raw pain of this reality, Ava retreats into a fantasy world, a coping mechanism that lets her process the situation at a distance. In her imagined reality, Ava's mother is transformed into Claire, a vibrant, glamorous musical theatre star who is preparing to exit her stage show. This shift from a grim reality to a colourful fantasy allows Ava to reframe her mother's decision in a way that is less final and more poetic. The fantasy gives Ava the space to come to terms with her mother's choice, offering her a childlike escape where the difficult truths of illness and loss are softened by the allure of performance and transformation. Through this alternate world, Ava is also given the opportunity to mend the fractured bond with her sister, Anna, and to rekindle an old flame with Jessa, a high school sweetheart whose reappearance in her life hints at the possibility of new beginnings. These relationships become anchors for Ava, showing her that even in the midst of immense pain, connections with others can offer hope and a path toward healing. In the end, Ava's Impossible Things is not just a story about the physical and emotional toll of Huntington's disease, but also a journey toward acceptance. It is a narrative that explores how one can find moments of beauty and redemption even when facing the harshest realities. Ava's retreat into her fantasy world is a symbolic way of dealing with the unbearable, transforming despair into a space where love, memory, and hope can coexist, and where the promise of connection and renewal offers a glimmer of light in a very dark time. That's it for our recap. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like and subscribe. What did you think of Ava's world? Let us know in the comments, and we will see you again here on Sapphic Nook.